What's one trend that excites me? This was actually a question recently asked me by Entrepreneur Magazine. They asked me several questions. They were writing an article by interviewing me. And without question, I said YouTube. And in this episode, I'm going to explain why it is so dynamic, so incredible compared to how I used to communicate to my audience years ago with newspaper articles, and then radio and TV, now with podcasts and YouTube videos. I'm going to share in this episode why it excites me so much and why you should not miss out. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for 5 decades, helping thousands of Americans optimize their assets, minimize taxes, and empower what I call their authentic wealth. Now, in order to get my messaging out to my ideal audience, for years, in fact, 50 years ago, I used to just send out letters, like sales letters. And then I eventually started writing articles, mostly in the newspaper, but I had to pay to have my article published in the newspapers. But it was worth it because I would fill up seminars based upon people who read my editorial articles in the newspaper. Well, then newspapers started to implode. And back in the early 2000s, people, they were listening and watching what? Radio, TV. And so I was able to start a radio show and get 30 minutes on a radio program that was all my content for $300, where it used to be that 60-second ads cost me $300, okay? And so I, for 13 years, had a weekly radio show, and I was able to reach my audience via radio and TV. Well, what has happened since then? We have had where people get messages via audio, video, podcasts, and YouTube videos is the most popular platform for video content, okay? And so what I want to do is share with you how this can make a dramatic difference for you. Now, my YouTube channel, which you're probably watching this episode on, as of the recording of this episode, we have 155,000 plus subscribers. We have nearly 2,000 educational videos. Why is this a trend that excites me so much? Well, one of the keys that I have taught for years to dramatically stay ahead of the curve is to redefine your business, at least every 7 years. If you don't do this, you will be out of business, okay? See, the biggest mistake most business owners make is they think the way it is right now is the way it's always been and the way it's always gonna be. No, okay? You have to redefine your business every 7 years or else you're gonna be left in the dust. So for example, years ago, I used to communicate and find my prospects with letters, sales letters. I would send out 10 letters every day, okay? Well, later on, I began to write articles. Yeah, they got published in some magazines, but in newspapers, and I had to pay the newspaper to publish my article. And I would shell out $4,000 for a quarter-page, editorial ad. But it was worth it because it would fill up a seminar room with 120 people based upon the headline in the article. And so it was very profitable. And back in the day, my heavens, the 2 big newspapers in Salt Lake City, Utah, where I live, had 250,000 circulation. But at the turn of the century, people started getting their news in different ways. Only older people would still, get a newspaper, but pretty soon they were getting news on their smartphones and their iPads and their computers. And so newspapers started begging me to advertise for 1/20th the cost they used to charge me. And it wasn't worth it, okay? And some of those newspapers who adapted and started having a digital format, they survived. The rest of them went out of business. This reminds me of a good friend of mine who was a consultant for Kodak. Kodak Film. Do you remember Kodak? They used to be one of the Dow Jones, the top 30 corporations in in America and the world. Now they're out of business. Why? This consultant tried to convince Kodak back at the turn of the century, get out of your head that you're in the film business. You are not in the film business now. You are in the image capturing business. People are capturing images digitally. Kodak, they couldn't change. And now they're out of business, okay? They didn't redefine their business. And so you have to redefine your business every 7 years. And so I had to go from a newspaper to radio and TV. But basically in 2009, I was able to fulfill a need that the newspapers couldn't do, but radio stations, they couldn't afford to pay for weekend content. They had to charge for it, okay? And so they used to have people on the weekends that would be their radio show hosts like the weekday people. Well, they had to lay off all those people and they had to start charging for their time that they had for content on the weekends. Well, I provided content for them every Saturday for 3 different hours on Saturday and some on Sunday. And they were letting me talk for a half an hour for $300. They used to charge me $300 for 60 seconds for an ad. And so I used radio for 13 consecutive years. And I reached my audience with radio and also TV infomercials. Well, and also interviews. But then radio and TV has started to go down. And so I've tried to explain to some of the media buyers, get out of your head that you're in the radio and TV business. Some of them can't accept that. You're in the audio and video information business. It's podcasts, it's YouTube. And so one of the greatest trends that has happened is YouTube, okay? And so you may have heard me on this channel talk about a formula, how I make ideas come to fruition. I take any idea by just scooping up the world's bad news. We're full of bad news. And so I feel like a grizzly bear on a permanent salmon run. I scoop up bad news. I can do that in less than 60 seconds before I record a YouTube video, for example. I used to do this before I recorded a radio show. I would have an hour radio show and it took me 60 seconds to prepare. How did I do it? I just said, oh, what's the bad news? Oh, we had a terrorist attack. We had a tsunami. We had an earthquake. We had a shooting. We had this. And the stock market did this. And so I would just say, oh, because of this bad news, why are people feeling confused, isolated, and powerless today? How can I give them clarity, confidence, and capability? Because when I gave them these 3 C's, it cleared up their confusion, their isolationism, and powerlessness because I empowered them with new capability. And by delivering these 3 C's, I was able to provide leadership, create relationships with my audience, and use creativity. This formula has worked when I would write newspaper articles, when I would get on the radio, when I get on YouTube, when I write a book, okay? So this is the trend I'm excited about. Why? Because heretofore, if I recorded a radio show, the people had to be listening to the radio at that moment. They had to be in their car. And so I would choose to be on the radio on Saturdays when my audience, baby boomers, were going to their grandkids' soccer games and so forth, or piano recitals. I would be on the radio on Sunday when they were going to or coming from church. And so, but they had to be in their car doing that. If they missed my radio show, it was a one-off. I started to create podcasts out of my radio show, but very few people would tune into the podcast. Well, it was a one-off. The reason why I like YouTube, because it's evergreen. Did you hear that? Evergreen, which means it stays there forever. The content I post on YouTube or in a podcast is available for people searching on the internet, answers to questions. And if my video is one of the most popular ones, YouTube puts it as one of the top 5 recommended videos to get the answer to that specific question. Okay, it's search engine optimization. And all I do is use this formula. So for example, when I first started my YouTube channel, I remember doing a video the first year, where is a safer place than a bank to put your money? And the whole first 2 years, we got, I think, between 2,000 and 3,000 views. That's about typical, okay? But guess what happened? When the Silicon Valley Bank went under and then Republic Bank, I didn't do anything. And all of a sudden, this video goes to viral overnight. And within a few days, there were thousands upon thousands of views of a video I posted 3 years earlier. See, radio and TV can't do that. YouTube can. I could give you tons of examples of this, where I have recorded a video, it was well received, but then all of a sudden, something happened, and all of a sudden it goes viral. And then about a year later, the same thing happens again in the economy. The stock market crashes, and all of a sudden I get another 200,000 views. I have some YouTube videos that have over 1 million views. I only had to take time to record it once. Are you getting it? That's why YouTube is a trend I love, because it creates evergreen content. If you're missing out, one of the things I do for our IUL insiders, this is the coalition and network that I have for financial professionals who like to do what I do and help people with max funded IUL. I show them how they can set up their own YouTube channel and the formula on how to record a YouTube video, okay? It's not that hard. But when you do it, watch what happens. It's a trend that if you don't seize the opportunity, you're going to miss the wave. If you're a surfer, you want to catch the wave. Otherwise, you'll miss it. And so I don't know what the next trend is going to be, but I think video content is here to stay for a while. It used to be videos had to be 3 minutes. And then they said, well, now people are watching 12 and 15 and 20-minute videos. So I've been doing that. Now they're watching 90-minute and 2-hour videos. They're watching, just conversations. So you just adapt. And so that's what I'm talking about. This is a trend. People want to see unscripted, real-life video where people are talking off the cuff instead of a script, instead of a canned presentation. So if you want to learn more, I would recommend you join IUL Insiders if you're a financial professional, or if you want to claim a free copy of one of my books, Entitlement Abolition, you Google entitlementabolitionbook.com or laserfund.com, and you can claim a free copy of the book, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But this is a trend that is here to stay.